And I feel like we're now at a point where people are either like war hungry or nothing.
Yeah.
America's got to stay away from everything and not lead in the world at all. Like how do you have that conversation as a veteran with people usually like me who are arguing about this who never served?
What the entire world went through, and that was a big inspiration for it as well.
Are you a huge history guy?
I mean, it's definitely something that I'm more interested than most things. I don't know that I'd call myself a buff with it. Like if you were to give me a bunch of trivia, I'm sure I'd fail miserably, but I enjoy it. I love history and find it fascinating.
Yeah, there's this kid, Rishi Sharma, who I got to show you his channel when we're done. I don't know if you can pull it up, Alessi. Type in Rishi Sharma to YouTube. Guys, if you're still watching this video and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take 2 seconds and go hit it right now. Thank you. But it's pretty amazing what he does. When he was like 17 years old and in high school, he had been obsessed with World War II and so amazed at, how close things came to falling apart that he went to like a local nursing home and asked to meet World War II veterans, like the heroes. And so then pretty soon he started like a foundation with it. And for the last 7-8 years, the kid has not had a career. He's made no money. He's had a foundation and he goes around and he interviews World War II veterans around the world.
That's amazing.
And gets their history. It's like, it is the most underrated channel on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's absolutely unbelievable, but it's crazy how many different not just experiences, but the different, this is a horrible word, but like the different theaters everyone had to fight in, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Like there was North Africa, there was Europe, but then there was Europe down south, and then there was the Pacific, there were the islands on the Pacific, and it's almost like you start hearing these guys and you're like, oh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I never even knew about that one.
Yeah.
It was so insane what those guys went through.
How old is this kid?
He's like 25.
Wow. That's amazing.
He was calling me from JFK the other night because they wouldn't let him on his plane, and he had to get another ticket because he's going over to France for D-Day with these guys. It's amazing. Like he really
really cool.
really lives and breathes it. But
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool to hear that like some of your motivation came from the greatest generation.
Yeah, and I think maybe even to an unnatural degree as a child looked at just the opportunity that America provides and was maybe more appreciative of it than I think most children. I always felt like this is the greatest country in the world and I want to do something to perpetuate it and kind of pay it forward. And I've really always been a most bang for your buck driving the decisions that I've made really throughout my entire life, even as a teenager. And no different there is that I thought, okay, I want to join the military. I want to, serve to the best of my ability within the confines of the military. What's going to give me the most impact or most bang for my buck in terms of service? And I thought, well, special operations seems like it has kind of the highest percentage chance of, making a big impact. Looking back on it, a lot of it is because of the challenge, the sexiness of special operations. I read a Popular Mechanics article when I was in high school that really introduced me to the SEAL teams. And I didn't really know of them other than seeing the movie with Charlie Sheen. And that really kind of laid out from soup to nuts what they were all about and really supercharged my desire to want to do it. But as I, spent all the time that I did in the military, I learned very quickly that, while special operations does some pretty high level missions and it's kind of that tip of the spear thing, the reality of it is that everybody's job in the military is equally as important because you remove any one of them and those guys can't do their job, So, it gave me, I think, an even bigger appreciation for the entire military machine and what it's capable of, how important it is. And not to get too far into politics quite yet, but just, how important I think it is that our elected officials be diligent or use their due diligence before sending us anywhere to ensure that it's kind of a last ditch effort or, there's no other option, because it's a big commitment.
100%. And actually that's something I would really like to ask you about though. You're hitting on a topic that we're all thinking about, with these multiple wars not happening around the world. And it's like, we are technically not sending boots on the ground right?
Yeah.
We haven't deployed the military, but we're funding both of these wars. It's war. I mean, you know what it is. It's horrible. It
Yeah.
should be a last resort kind of thing. But it's brought up these two crowds that are obviously arguing with each other all the time. And one crowd is kind of, I guess, tacitly supporting military industrial complex, if you will, and the other crowd is isolationist.
Yeah.
And like when I study history, as best I can tell, it's kind of somewhere in between is where it's supposed to be, more towards what you just said, which is it is a necessary thing, but it should be a last resort and we should try to avoid it or de-escalate situations. And I feel like we're now at a point where people are either like war hungry or nothing.
Yeah.
America's got to stay away from everything and not lead in the world at all. Like how do you have that conversation as a veteran with people usually like me who are arguing about this who never served?
I mean, for me, I don't take the approach that my opinion is more valuable or worthwhile than anybody else's. I think, if you pay taxes in this country and you're an American citizen, your voice is just as important as anybody else's. And I do dislike to see some in the veteran community kind of taking that, self-entitled approach to like, I served and you didn't, so shut the fuck up. I don't think that that's helpful. But having said that, I think like with most things in life, balance is the key to everything. And to your point, and I agree completely, is that I'm not an isolationist, but I'm also certainly not a war hawk either. I think, if you look at historically, just within the right and left flank of the United States in terms of its history, World War II is as good of an example as to when you get involved and why, how to conduct the actual operation itself from start to finish. And then I think at least as important, maybe even more importantly, is what you do afterwards. It needs to be done in a certain intentional manner. So that
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you look at Afghanistan and Iraq now, we spent way more time and money in both of those places than we did during World War II.
Mm.
If you look at what we did in Japan and Germany after World War II versus, and look at how Germany and Japan are now as nations in terms of allies, in terms of productivity, in terms of a lack of terrorism or whatever the thing is that we battled, whatever you want to call Nazism and the imperial army in Japan. Neither of those are a threat anymore. We're allied with them. They're productive democracies because we made a commitment both during of saying we're all going to go over there. We're taking the fucking gloves off. The entire country's behind it, and we're not coming home until the mission is done. And then even when it is done, we're going to leave as many people as we need to leave there for as long as we need to leave them so that this shit doesn't happen again and it gets completely rooted out, which it did.
Yeah.
When you look at Afghanistan and Iraq, neither of those are the case, and we were there way longer, So, again, I don't think not doing anything is the right answer. It is tough with the amount of places that exist in the world to decide which ones to get involved with, and that's never an easy solution. But I do think oftentimes some of the world's most complex problems, whether it's geopolitical, socioeconomically, what have you, actually require some of the simplest solutions. And I would equate it to a bar fight, whether it's the micro of a bar fight or the macro of a world war, is that the principles are generally the exact same in that if you're walking by and you see a bar fight taking place, you can walk in there and get involved, or you can keep walking. Why you decide to walk in there and get involved is going to vary in every instance, but understand that if you do, no matter how you conduct yourself in there, you're going to make friends and you're going to make enemies, no matter what your intentions are.
Yes.
No matter who you help, no matter who you try to hurt, you're creating that ripple effect, that the CIA studied and talked about at length in terms of the Russian involvement in Afghanistan in the 80s. And so understanding that, only walk in there if you feel like by not doing it, you're basically either creating or allowing an existential threat to your own safety, or something so egregious is happening that you can't live with yourself without walking in there and getting involved. To me, it's kind of that simple. But now if I'm going to walk in there, like no matter what's going on, if I decide that the stakes are so high that I have to walk in there, I can tell you right now, there's going to be zero rules as to how I conduct myself in there. And if I go in there, I'm going to stack the deck at every turn to my advantage. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use weapons. I'm going to use the element of surprise, overwhelming force, fucking broken bottle, a chair, a gun, a machete. I don't care. I'm not going to give them the heads up. I'm not going to give them any chance to fight fair, and I'm going to overwhelm them and absolutely wipe them off the map, and then I'm going to leave. And to me, you really have to do that. No different than, say, the Tecumseh Sherman approach in the Civil War of that scorched earth. Like, I'm going to make it so god awful. Like, we're not going to get involved unless we have to. But if we do have to, we're going to send the entire brunt of the United States military over there with absolutely everything we have. And we're going to completely demolish that entire part of the world and make them regret that they fucked with us. And we're going to make every other country that's thinking about it decide, you know what, we're not going to fuck with those guys, because I don't want that happening here.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.